All right, so we're back and we're going to talk about what's wrong with pseudoscience. All right, so one thing that is wrong with pseudoscience is that it consumes our energy. When we can't tell the difference between real scientific evidence and fake scientific evidence, evidence that is not scientific but is claiming to be, we waste time trying to figure out what is really true and whether we should take this person's advice or that person's advice. It consumes our energy. So I thought I could use an example from, I don't know how well you all remember COVID, but the claim that we are going to all hide in our houses for 2 weeks to flatten the curve, right? We were only supposed to be, you know, limiting our movements for 2 weeks. It's hilarious. I got this image from Johns Hopkins University. Actually, CNBC made the graphic out of Johns Hopkins data. And so that yellow rectangle shows you the dates of the 15 days to flatten the curve where we were all supposed to stay home. And so it was supposed to flatten the curve. And it looks reasonably kind of not a lot's going on right then, because honestly, we didn't have much COVID in the country at the time. I mean, it's like on the floor. We had maybe hundreds of cases when the flatten the curve thing started. But look at the angle of the curve during the 2 weeks. It is practically 90 degrees. That's a 45, I guess. That's called a 45-degree angle. That is not a flat curve during those 2 weeks. It was, the rates were increasing as people were supposedly locking down. Of course, there's a incubation period and other things. So, the first week that we were locking down, people were probably coming down with the cases that had occurred, prior to the lockdowns. Of course, the great news is now that we've all locked down and we're with our family members or whatever stuck in our houses, we were giving them to each other and stuff. So the cases were growing. They weren't flattening. In fact, the flattening of the curve occurred after the 15 days. Now, if you do remember COVID, you know that in the state of Washington, we were locked down pretty much this entire picture. The picture ends March 14th of 2021, we weren't having classes. We were still under a mask mandate during that period of time. I mean, so we were pretty locked down. So that, beginning of that curve, people were in the state of Washington probably hadn't been super exposed, like especially here in the Spokane area, where I was. People hadn't been as exposed, and they did hide for a little while, but don't worry, we caught up. Right? As soon as we started moving around, we caught up. And so that's the point. Now, why am I calling this pseudoscience? Well, this claim that we could all sort of retreat to our houses for 2 weeks was not based on anything. This is unprecedented. It had never happened before. There was no scientific evidence to say if people were to not move around and if we forbid them to have contact with people outside their households, that we would be able to contain a highly contagious virus. Like, there was no evidence to support that. So we were doing it based on really pseudoscientific claims that were being presented to us as if they were scientific, but they were not based on science. In fact, as the science came out, we started to realize, obviously, this was not the way to handle it. But it was too late. We were all stuck. So 2 weeks to flatten the curve, I'm going to put into the category of pseudoscience because of the lack of scientific evidence supporting it. And then I'm showing you this picture to illustrate it was probably not valid advice in any way, shape, or form. How about cancer treatments? Cancer treatments are, we have a lot of great science that has helped to improve the treatment of cancer. Like, we cannot deny that. I just today was watching on the news, they were talking about how death rates from cancer have plummeted, except for colon cancer, but other kinds of cancers have plummeted in people under the age of 50, and they were attributing it to early diagnosis, and then if a person has it, much more effective treatments and things like that. So I don't want to make anybody scared about cancer treatments, but what I do want to do is put us on alert that there are claims about cancer treatments that are pseudoscientific claims. And I have this website that I wanted to show you as an example of a pseudoscientific source, an oasis of healing, it's called. And they're going to treat you with the biological laws of nature, using alternative cancer treatments that will cause the least harm. One of the big principles on this website is that the medicines that are standard protocol treatments for cancer in mainstream medicine, those are actually what are killing you. It's not the cancer that's killing you, it's the treatment that's killing you. So they're telling you, we are not going to kill you with medication. We are going to use nature to do it. And they talk about these different, like, there's nothing wrong with improving your diet. There's nothing wrong with any of these things being additions to standard care treatment. But what we're talking about is people who are saying, instead of those treatments, we want you to do these things. And so, but if you go through this, they don't give you citations. They don't tell you what doctors have come to these conclusions and how they came to the conclusions that these work. They have a website that is set up very much like a marketing website to try and lure you into opting for them as the treatment modality. And that's where you get a little pseudoscientific, right? When it's not evidently based on data or science, it's based on how convincing their argument might be. Look how blissful the pictures are on our website. Here, watch this video about it, those kinds of things. Those are signs that these might not actually be science-based treatments. So back to the consumes energy, right? We're hiding in our houses for COVID. We're trying out these homeopathic or these naturalistic or other kinds of things, and we're being told, do them before you fill your body with the toxins that the mainstream medicine is going to fill it with. So you need to try these first. And the best case I can give you for somebody who followed that direction was Steve Jobs. When he got pancreatic cancer, he had a type of pancreatic cancer that is very commonly curable in our modern medicine techniques. There are different kinds of pancreatic cancer. He had the type that doesn't grow as fast and that tends to be operable and that also can be shrunk with chemo. And so he had a really good chance of survival had he gone the mainstream route. But he chose not to. He chose to go the natural route, and he tried all the natural things, and then he waited till he was actually clearly this is not working. Then he tried the traditional things, and then it was too late by that point. It had metastasized. It was in other parts of his body. That's the problem with these pseudoscientific claims. Do this first before you try the known things that have been shown to work for most patients. You may have consumed so much energy that you actually have no other options now. And so I'd say that's a pretty big risk with pseudoscientific claims. Pseudoscience discredits legitimate science, and this is actually really harmful because we are left not knowing what to believe when we are told that, well, you can't trust mainstream medicine, for example. So who do you trust? What if your doctor tells you you need some kind of medicine? Do you second guess? Do you try and figure it out for yourself? Do you Google it? Do you look for TikTok videos to tell you what to do? Like, this is not helpful. It discredits legitimate science. A lot of people have come to the conclusion, I just had a conversation over the past weekend with somebody who honestly thinks all science is in the same category as junk science and pseudoscience. That real scientific work must be junk science because there are tangential links to some funding source that would benefit from the results of the study. Or that all scientists are pseudoscientists who are not really conducting meaningful studies, that science doesn't tell us anything different than logic does. Like, people have gotten really skeptical about real science, and I think it's because pseudoscience has muddied the waters so badly, has made people not sure what to conclude. It has made all funding sources suspect. We've gotten to a point where any funding source means that you are tainted and you're producing junk science. Here's a guy named Stephen Malloy. He runs a website called junkscience.com, and he's just on the lookout for evidence of junk science all the time. So back in 2004, he was reporting on the pharmaceutical industry's push to increase the number of people who are on statins because a particular study had implied that we should actually lower the threshold for what indicates that you probably need statins to lower cholesterol. So he's going after somebody named Dr. Topol, because in his study, he recommended that we should have probably 3 times as many people taking statins as were taking them in 2004. He published his study in the New England Journal of Medicine, and that journal decided we don't need to reveal that that Dr. Topol's employer receives financial support from 2 major pharmaceutical firms. Those 2 major pharmaceutical firms did not give any money directly to Dr. Topol's research. They give money to the university where he works. And so the journal was like, he's not directly being paid by these places. Why would he have to disclose that he somehow works for them, right? But this guy is skeptical. He's saying, I don't know, it seems a little, I don't know, cozy to have this person, Dr. Topol, producing a study that supports increasing the rates of statins in the population, which conveniently are Pfizer and Bristol Myers produce statins. So they would directly benefit if doctors took the advice that he's providing in this study. So he's very skeptical. He's worried about it. And I have to give you an update on this. In 2024, it was discovered that people who are on statins are at a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes because the statins themselves can have an impact on how the person processes blood sugar. So, tripling the number of people taking statins means that you're going to have more people who maybe now become dependent on diabetes medications, which also are produced by pharmaceuticals. So there are a lot of people who talk about the pharmaceutical industry is interested in keeping us sick, right? Side effects aren't necessarily efforts to keep us sick, but that's the argument, right? And so when we go down this train of thought where all science is junk science, all funding is tainting the scientist, all of these things are like that, it makes it so that we can't trust anybody. We think the only trustworthy scientists are those that don't have any funding. Well, you're not doing any medical research without funding. In psychology, we tend to not have any funding, but you could really, honestly, you could point to our personal biases as a bigger motive in psychology. So now I guess we could be junk scientists because we have personal motives, or we could be pseudoscientists because maybe we aren't really conducting valid studies, things like that. You could just go down this wormhole of nobody is trustworthy. No one is producing anything useful. And that's the risk, right? Like that's a big problem with pseudoscientists is that they put all of us into question. All right, let's go ahead and take a little break here. And I'm going to come back and give you an example based on a UFO incident that happened back in the 90s. So I'll see you then.